Jamie,
Yeah?
let's start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning. So, am
The
I right?
opening credits.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, I was going to start after that.
Let's rewind then.
Nice credits, eh?
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting. Like, not that the credits really mean anything in terms of the story itself, but it's just a nice little visual thing. I hope those tiles keep flipping over as the dead progress more southwards, though. That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. I hadn't really thought of that.
If it actually showed them getting closer and closer.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, shit. Yeah, that could happen.
Oh.
But it's quite interesting because before the episode, you said the fewest amount of places that had been on the Westeros map in the opening credits had been, did you say?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Prior to
It was
this.
3.
Yeah, and we knew that there was going to be less locations this season.
Fewer.
Yeah, sorry. All right, Stannis. So they sort of dealt with that in an interesting way, didn't they?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. And yeah, that's obviously where the majority of the budget of this season has gone. These new opening credits.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the later episodes, potentially.
Yeah. All right. So what were you going to say before I brought up the credits? What were you going to say?
So what I was going to say was, what was the first line?
Was it? See, I don't know what the first line was, but I know what it was about, and it was about like balls, lack of balls, eunuch jokes, cock jokes.
So the interesting thing is about this, right? Was you and I have discussed at length about the quips becoming sort of lowest common denominator more and more, and we had a little Euron montage in our earlier Game of Thrones discussion video where he just says lots of silly anachronistic things like what a twat and things like that. So we'd already discussed that. You'd already said, I wonder how long it would take for Tyrion to bring up Varys not having a cock or something like that. And on top of what we've just said as well, as the Unsullied were marching into Winterfell, I was watching it with a group of friends, and I don't like talking during TV shows, but I couldn't resist it. And as they were marching into Winterfell, I turned to my friends and I said, oh, well, at least their balls won't shrivel up in the cold. And then they laughed, right? Because it was sort of, there wasn't any dialogue at that point, and it didn't distract anything. And then literally the first line that we heard, on top of the fact of what I've just said about the speculation that you'd already brought up about when Tyrion would actually make the joke, his first line was, well, at least your balls won't freeze off, to Varys.
God.
And it was like, what? And I laughed, and we laughed in the room, because I'd literally said almost identically the same thing.
Yeah. It was like an incredulous laugh.
Yeah. And I was like, I thought I was quite funny when I said it, I must be honest. But I thought of it in the moment. So I thought of it instantly. And then I thought, okay, that was quite funny. They've used that line. And then I thought about this afterwards. I thought, actually, that's not that good. Because David and Dan have had however long to think of the lines. And on top of that, like, this is the first line of the last season ever of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Unless I'm getting it wrong, and it didn't happen to be the first line, but I think it was.
It was, yeah, 100%.
Right, and it was like, and that's what you went with, like something that I thought up in like a second.
As a joke.
As a flippant,
not an in-universe joke either.
Yeah.
Just
As a joke within the universe that we live in real life joke, like. Yeah. And I was fully aware that it was really lowest common denominator joke. And then they use that joke, and it's like, that's really weird. It was weird, and B, I was like, oh, guys, like, come on, you can do better than what I just thought up then as a joke. Like, as a really, really throwaway joke. So yeah, that was like the first moment that actually, like, yet again made me go, oh God, really? And that was the opening moment of the season. So
Yeah. And it speaks to Tyrion's character or lack of character at the moment as well, doesn't it? Like, all he seems to do these days is make those same jokes over and over and mope around and have bad ideas.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
Yeah.
the witty, clever, manipulative Tyrion of the past is no more. And I was thinking about this, like, I don't understand who he is anymore. And I think that's because, like, in the books, at least so far, like, Tyrion has become, like, really, in fairness, he is really dour and bitter. But that's due to misfortune after misfortune that have occurred in the books that didn't necessarily happen in the show. Like, he's flung around from place to place. People are pissing him off and everything. But the thing is, that's earned in the books.
Yeah, and
whereas,
he may have grayscale in the books as well, where he keeps pricking his finger to see if he's got it. So he's got that constantly weighing on him. He's got all these things. And as you say, that's all earned in the books.
It's all earned, whereas it just seems to be a sudden character shift now. And he's not the only one that this has happened to, by the way. It just seems a sudden character shift that doesn't seem to make sense. And that's why I don't really understand who he is anymore. And I don't get the point of him anymore, which is weird.
Yeah, you're totally right. It does feel as if their through line for the character progression, for the character arc, has ended.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be too critical of D&D here, but with Theon, his through line character arc ended where George's ended in the books, where Tyrion's has ended where the books ended. All of the characters have basically ended at the point where they were up to in the story based on their position in the books, other than people like Sansa, Arya, I suppose Jon and Daenerys. Their character arcs have continued, but they've continued in a way which is almost a caricature of their own characters.
Yeah.
In the case of Arya and Sansa, it's not even a caricature of their own characters. It's a representation of the characters that they feel like the majority of their fans would like to see.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And more commonly known as fan service. And
just to butt in there for a second, and a lot of the dialogue is geared around that as well. I think a lot of the lines from these characters are now written in the sense that of like what will get the biggest audible group fan reaction.
Yeah.
Like an example of that is, in the scene later on, I'm just skipping ahead a bit now, when they're having that argument in Winterfell and Sansa's like, what do dragons eat anyway? And Dany's like, whatever they want. Like, that just seems totally created to be watched like by a group of Game of Thrones fans so that they can go, oh, or whatever. Yeah, so much of the dialogue is like that.
Just that reaction though is really weird.
It's the same with the blue eyes joke later on. It's like you put in a laugh track and that's the tone that they're going for.
That's really true actually. Yeah.
What do dragons eat anyway?
Whatever they want.
Stay back, he's got blue eyes!
I've always had blue eyes!
Yeah, because as I say, I watch it with the group now, and it feels like it's meant to be watched in the group. Like,
they're writing it for those cornholes who go down to a pub and watch it and scream over everything.
Oh no!
Oh
God!
The real father was Rhaegar Targaryen.
See, I've been watching, as you know, I've been watching the OA. Now, I don't want to go into that in too much detail, and I don't even want to really say whether I like it or dislike it. But one thing I will say is, if I watched that with other people, it would have the direct opposite sort of feeling attached with it. It would be more a sense of, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this with other people. Because, not because I'm embarrassed that I'm watching it, but because it's such a sort of a weirdly emotive and emotional sort of show that it has to sort of draw you in, and you have to be involved with it. And if you watched it in a group, you would kind of all be cringing probably a little bit, and you'd be sort of suddenly aware of how sort of overly emotional and almost pretentious it is.
Yeah.
Now, Game of Thrones is the opposite. It's so by the numbers now that, like you say, if you're in a group, you're sorted. But if you're by yourself and you have time to think about things, and you're the sort of person who goes, so what does that mean?
You're in it for the art rather than the entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Most people who watch something by themselves are more in it for the art than they are the entertainment. That's a really good way of putting it. And I don't think there is much of that going on now
anymore. Yeah.
Although, I mean,
well, you see, the thing is, right? Can't be too disparaging here, because it is an extremely well crafted show from a technical perspective, right?
Yeah.
You know, editing, cinematography, direction, like it's all great. They're at the top of their game. From that perspective, it's one of the best shows on television. But one of the key components at the start was always story and meaning, and that seems to have just taken a back seat now, which is unfortunate. And that's what you and I were in it for mainly at the start anyway, so that's why we feel kind of disappointed now with the direction the show has gone.
Yeah. So let's explain why the particular instances in this particular episode, and what we thought about those in relation to what we've just said, perhaps.
Yeah.
So how does that move on after that?
Well, the next moment is actually okay. I might as well bring up something, because the next moment is when they go into the courtyard and they're greeted, right, by Sansa, right? Sansa gives Dany a really cold reception.
Oh yeah. And
it's a bit weird, because Sansa is, of all the people who are able to keep their emotions in check and say the right thing, like that has literally been Sansa's whole shtick for years. Like the amount of shit she put up with in King's Landing, and yet she still played the nice, you know, like she never betrayed her emotions or got angry. But now she's just like in Dany's face for some reason, and it seems really weird.
It's difficult here, because I don't want to just spend the whole time criticizing it. But
neither do I. Huh?
But by the same token, these are things that I didn't think were particularly good. So I'm not going to lie. You know, like there'd be no point doing that. So for me, the whole Sansa and Daenerys thing feels really forced.
Yep.
Okay, first of all, let's break it down. Why is Sansa in the show annoyed with Daenerys, or slightly off with her? I guess she is. There's a degree of envy.
Yep.
And there's probably a degree of protectiveness towards her brother.
Yep.
And
her home. Yeah.
And then there's probably the overriding concern that Daenerys is like her much spoken about father, the Mad King.
Yeah.
So all of these things are reasonable concerns. So then, like you're saying, if they are reasonable concerns, is Sansa the sort of character to let those things be shown on her face and in her, actions at every possible moment? And especially given everything we know about the character up to this point, and everything she's learned or supposedly learned from people like Cersei and Littlefinger, you would suspect that if those were her true feelings, she would do her best to keep those cards close to her chest.
At least for the time being, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe she'd confide in Jon, or maybe she'd say to Arya or whatever, but she certainly wouldn't be saying it, doing these slam dunks in front of the whole...
In public.
Yeah. So, which is fine. Like, this is how some things are written. They're written in such a way that the characters play out in a certain way. But we've established now, by us breaking it down that way, that is all that they're doing with that.
Yeah.
I.e., everything that they did in season 1 and season 2 with characters where they had their true emotions play out and characters behaved in an organic way, has now been discounted. That's okay in the sense it's okay in the sense that if Game of Thrones had always been this way, I could understand it. And if that was the type of show it was, then that's okay. That's fine. You know, I can still find entertainment in shows like that, and I can still, you know, I would even find moments like that funny if it came in Suits. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, if there were two people in a court room and one of the characters did one of those little slam dunks in front of everyone else, and it'd be a nice little giggle moment.
Yeah.
But this isn't Suits. So
no, it's not.
It's, you know, taken at face value, it's fine, which is why I think really casual viewers don't see problems with these things, because, you know, they're like, well, what's wrong with that? That's, you know, it's just meant to be entertaining. It's just meant to be entertainment. It's a fantasy, blah, blah, blah. That's the sort of things they always say.
It's fantasy. Yeah.
And to a degree they're right, but they're not right when you actually take into consideration all of the rest of the context.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the best way I would put that. It doesn't make any sense, and I can't even really understand why she would be acting in that way in front of Daenerys.
I do.
Yeah?
Because she's the smartest person Arya knows.
Oh, okay.
Point number 2.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, that was... I only wrote down a couple of things, but that was the second thing that I wrote down.
Yeah. I don't get that. That's to put it as concisely as possible.
I don't get that. No, I don't get it. Like,
why is she this? What? They were fighting all last season, and she didn't particularly show any extreme
smartness.
Intelligence last season, did she?
No.
She just said, she just tricked Littlefinger. But she didn't even trick him. She tricked the audience of the show.
And then they just slit his throat in front of everybody.
And watched him bleeding out.
Yeah.
In agony.
In the middle of the room whilst he just walked off. Like, totally un-Stark-like.
That's Northern Justice for you.
Yeah, I brought that up to someone else that watches it casually, and they were like, yeah, but you got to bear in mind that you know, they've completely changed because of all the things that they've been through. They're no longer like the Starks. I'm like, come on. They're not... That moment wasn't there to show that they're no longer like the Starks. That moment was there purely because it was cool, in inverted commas.
Show how badass they are.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. So Sansa is the smartest person I've ever met or I've ever known, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here was the next wider point, and it's related to this quote.
Yeah.
The audience are expected to accept that characters are only what other characters say that they are.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
in that
true.
moment, Arya states Sansa is the smartest person I've ever known, and the audience, and most of the audience will do this, are expected to just accept that she's the smart character. She's the smartest person in Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
They just instantaneously accept it, and they have to accept it. But that's not how character development's meant to work.
No, it's breaking that fundamental show don't tell rule.
Exactly. That's just pure exposition, but
Yeah.
but beyond exposition, it's not telling us stuff that's happened outside of what's been going on. It's trying to... It's beyond that, because it's trying to subvert what the audience has actually seen for 7 seasons and make us believe something else and just accept something else without any evidence of it. So if in the next episode Jon Snow turns around and says Daenerys is the fairest person I've ever met, you've got nothing to worry about, the audience then go, yeah, Daenerys is the fairest woman in Westeros. Like, that's all that they're doing. They're just literally having characters say things so that the audience then... That's then what the character is. That's it.
That's a great point.
And you can
You're
actually hear other characters talking about other characters now, and they talk, the way those characters are talking about the other characters is literally how we're supposed to think of those characters.
It's not the commentary of an individual on someone else. It's the writers telling you what to think.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. Because, you know, they could do it with anything. They could do it with the Hound next episode, where someone says about the Hound, yeah, he's brutal, but, you know, he won't, you know, his heart's in the right place, or something like that. I can just see someone saying that about the Hound, and then all of a sudden, you as an audience member and that character who's being told about it instantly has to accept that that's what the Hound is.
Yeah.
And it may be right, it may be true, but you can't just, as a writer, you can't just tell the audience what they're supposed to think about a character. And we're just being told now that Sansa is the smartest person in Game of Thrones, and that's it.
So that's it. She is.
Yeah. Forget
is.
Tyrion now.
What's Arya on about? She spent a season with Tywin Lannister, for fuck's sake. Oh God, I don't get it. I do get it because you've just explained it, but yeah, it just makes no sense.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense for Arya to think that. That's the thing.
No.
And if you think about it for literally 10 seconds, you would realise that. Unless it's also trying to say that Arya... I know it's not trying to say anything. That's the thing. It's literally just telling us that that's what she is. And Jon Snow is fundamentally underestimating Sansa, and this, that and the other. Like, that's it. Now, hopefully that's not to say that Tyrion is just dumb now.
Well, you see, if we judge Tyrion's character based on how you would typically judge characters in visual media by their actions, he is dumb, because all of his recent plans have turned to shit. Especially trusting Cersei. But yeah, you know, I'm going to assume that he's not going to be dumb just based on what you've just said there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not supposed to think he's dumb, even though any sane, rational person would see that he's an idiot now. Yeah. For some reason.
Well, he won't be dumb, and part of the reason he won't be is because Arya said, it's Sansa that said, I used to think you were the cleverest person in the Seven Kingdoms or something. You know the line I mean, right?
Yeah.
And because she said that, that will be the moment that Tyrion goes, oh yeah, you're right. I you know, I've
I need to pull my socks off.
Yeah. Literally that. And he will be back to being sort of having some good ideas now. But the good ideas will be like really like stuff that isn't good, but again, the show wants you to think is good. It will be stuff like, what you need to do is you need to put a cannonball on the Winterfell's third fort or whatever. They literally just say something really random like that, and it will work.
That's just what they need for a very specific situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would just be something like that. Like, because D&D are essentially trying to replicate the way that George had characters come up with things, and they just have it really specific, and it just completely, in a really weird way. I could just see it happening. But so that was another thing that was funny, because Sansa said that, and I was like, well, that was weird. Like, why did Tyrion buy that?
About Cersei?
Yeah.
I don't know. Of all the people who would buy something from Cersei, he is the least likely person to buy it. The least likely. Like, if you had to put odds on each character for that situation, no one would bet on Tyrion because he wouldn't trust Cersei.
What was the show's idea of the motivations for Tyrion believing her, if that makes sense?
She's pregnant. She has something to lose. That's what he says.
It doesn't even make sense, does it? I suppose it does make sense. Sort of.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I mean, it sort of makes sense that if she had something to lose, then
she'd capitulate a bit more, maybe.
Yeah, she'd think about her family's future a bit more. Maybe she'd be slightly more cautious. But but for Tyrion being the one to make that call, it still doesn't make sense. Yeah,
on that level.
Well, he'd certainly be skeptical.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is the thing, right? I mean, in seasons 1 to 4, we had characters being skeptical, and we had characters thinking things through, and then things move slowly when you have characters work that way. Mm-hmm. Everything basically comes back to the fact that they're trying to shoot through it now.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that might be, that's what their aim is. They're shooting through it, and that means that they're making sacrifices in terms of how characters are thinking. So they're certainly getting to the crux of matters, and they're getting to the main events quickly.
Can I just bring it back to a much broader point now that I've just thought of?
Mm-hmm.
Right, this has nothing to do with what we've already been talking about, but I have been wondering about this. I just don't understand what place magic has in the world anymore, and what people think of it. Right, so if we look at Bran, right, I think Bran is quite interesting now, even though he's a robot. But I don't understand, do the other characters take Bran seriously or not? Because every time he says something like, we don't have time for this, and the Night King has your dragon, all this sort of stuff, right? Every time he says something, there's a reaction shot of the other person staring in shock, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean they're like, what the f***? What is this guy on about? But the thing is, if they do take him seriously and believe him, why aren't they constantly turning to him for counsel and being like, Bran, give us the GPS location for the Night King, where is he? Why are they just leaving him around and then he pipes up every so often?
Yeah, massively. I thought exactly the same thing, but I hadn't thought of it in the way that you just put it, actually. So that's really well put, in the sense that if you follow that through to its logical and natural conclusion, and how George would have had it written, which is why he wouldn't have Bran be such a fountain of knowledge, is that if he was a fountain of knowledge, they would literally put him in the room, and they'd have the maester around him giving him what he needs and saying, look, this is what we need. The characters would respond in a natural and realistic way to the unnatural and fantastical element. That's what Game of Thrones is. That's why it's interesting as a fantasy show, because they have fantastical elements in a real grounded world, and that's why it's always been interesting, because that's fascinating to think what would happen in a real life scenario if someone like that was there.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you just said, they wouldn't have him just randomly sitting in the middle of the courtyard staring into space and just ignoring him,
waiting for the camera to turn on to him so he can say his line.
Yeah. It's just bizarre. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah.
So, Jon.
Yeah.
Now, Arya references his death in this episode. How did you survive a knife to the heart, right?
Yeah, and he said,
and
I didn't.
then he goes, I didn't. Okay,
yeah.
So is him dying widespread knowledge then? Right, because it was never addressed on a widespread scale. And, not to mention how the former Lord Commander of the Night's Watch is suddenly just running around the north fighting battles and stuff. No one brought that up or had an issue with it.
No.
As far as people know, he is the Lord Commander. So why is it suddenly accepted that he's king in the north, that he's down in Winterfell? And then does Sam know as well? Because when Sam left Castle Black, Jon was still the Lord Commander, and now they've reunited, and it just hasn't been addressed. Does Sam know he died? Why is Sam not asking, what are you doing here? Why are you not Lord Commander? Why are you king? I don't get it.
Yeah.
All of this has just kind of been skipped over.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well. There's several different points there, isn't there, actually?
Yeah.
There's the point of the magic, and then there's the point of when do characters have these external conversations. It's okay to accept that certain conversations would be happening.
Yep.
But when you're seeing the reuniting of two characters, and they don't have what would be the most pivotal conversations then and there, that no longer makes sense. It's okay, if they've already met before that, because then you, as an audience member, can accept that Sam and John have been through all that. Now, the best way of doing that, if you were reading a screenwriting book, would be that you'd have Sam walking into the room, seeing John, them both like having that moment and having the hug, and then it cutting.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to them either in a later scene or literally just cutting to them in a later scene where they're sat around a table or whatever with a drink or whatever, and they've clearly already been through something and been through a discussion and
so then you can move on with whatever comes next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then as an audience member, you don't have those weird questions hanging over you like you just did then.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly valid questions to have as well, because again, they would be things that would have been addressed in the first few seasons, and it's certainly in the books things that would have been addressed by George. Like, we've said many times, one of the reasons why the books are so tangled is because he tries to have things happen organically, and he certainly wouldn't have let things just not happen just because he hasn't got time or whatever. But again, I've just explained how you get around that quite simply, and it doesn't actually change anything.
Oh.
So I do question why they can't see these quite glaring problems. But anyway,
what's going on in King's Landing?
What is going on in King's Landing
with the three characters in King's Landing?
Mountain,
like
Euron,
the empty throne room,
Cersei.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else? Oh, Qyburn.
And now Qyburn, and now what you call him, Strickland.
Oh yeah,
leader of the Golden Company. Why are they there now? Anyway, yeah, it's just strange, isn't it?
It is a bit. It's like a bit. It's like we predicted. Actually, it's literally just it cuts to King's Landing and Cersei's like
sitting there on her own.
Yeah, essentially, and then they bring in these other characters to have a chat with her. But it's just killing time until it's because they haven't got any of the other things going on now.
Yeah,
it's literally the White Walkers encroaching upon Westeros. How the North deal with it, and how long would it take for King's Landing to come to terms with that and figure that like that they're the only questions anymore, really. Yeah,
she's literally got nothing to do until something from the North comes into conflict with her.
Yeah.
She's spinning wheels until that.
Yeah, like she's not a independent. It's like she's an NPC in a RPG. She's not got like an independent motivation anymore. She's just like waiting there. She's like the woodcutter in like the middle of the forest in an RPG that you go up to and then you walk away from, and they just carry on cutting wood. It's literally it's like that.
Jesus, that's so true. Oh my god.
Okay, so let's just ignore the fact that the Umbers are the furthest north. We spoke about this before. They're the furthest north, and they decide to go back home for some reason. To get their people to bring them back to Winterfell. Why weren't they already at Winterfell? Who knows? Right. Okay. So let's ignore that part for a second, because I think we are just, in order to get through it, we're going to have to accept that these things are just going to happen constantly. So there's this speculation, isn't there, around the formation that Umber burns.
Oh, the shape.
Yeah, the shape. Yeah.
It's been like that since the start of the show. I think people are like, I know, putting way too much worth into that. It's just a mark to show the Night King was there. That's literally it. And so I saw some people are saying, "Oh, it's the Targaryen sigil." No, it's not. No, it's just a spiral. It's been there since, like, the same design has. I think the earliest you see it is season 3, and that's when there's an aerial shot because Mance and the wildlings and Jon come to the Fist of the First Men, where the walkers slaughtered the Night's Watch at the end of season 2, and there's a big design there. That shape is the same shape as the stones are in this bit of a Stonehenge thing when the children of the forest made the Night King.
Okay.
It's the location of where they made him. That's it.
Okay. I think they will have things mean stuff though. They will have characters doing things that we don't expect, I assume, and they have to, because we've got five more episodes.
Yep.
God, it's hardly any.
I know.
Jeez.
And that's what kind of worried me. Not like, and this isn't me being bored, like being, oh, nothing happened in this episode. Like, nothing really did happen in this episode on a plot progression level, apart from John finding out who he is.
This makes me laugh, right? Because when you say that to someone like a casual viewer, they go, yeah, but they're just setting it all up, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's like, hang on a second, like, when this show first started, and there were slow episodes at the beginning, and people would say, as a valid reasoning, while they're setting it all up, you were the sort of person that would be like, oh, well, this is so boring. Now, the tables have completely turned. It's like people have swapped positions. It's like the people who think things through are now going, well, there was nothing there, and the people that before would have been the sort of people to have been bored by those sort of episodes are making excuses for it.
Yep.
It's really strange because it may be setting things up, but it's not. It's only setting things up in as much as on the episode synopsis that D&D gave to whoever wrote this particular episode, who I can't remember. Was it D&D themselves?
It was Dave Hill.
They would have written, and you can basically tell this, they would have written set things up. Like,
yeah.
That's different to in the pilot episodes or into episode 2 of season 2 of episode 1. Episode 1 of season 2.
Jesus, what a tongue twister that was.
They wouldn't have started writing those episodes with the thought process, let's set things up, which is what they are doing now. It's now. It's like everything is a parody. It's like everything is it's like they've forgotten how to do anything.
Yeah.
They've literally gone, right, episode 1 is the episode where you set it all up. Okay, so we'll do that. And it's like, well, yeah, but you still got things still have to happen. Like,
yeah.
and then these casual viewers will be like, well, nothing happened in the first episode, did it? You know, they just sort of dolled around in like Winterfell, and you know, nothing really happened. It's like, well, yeah, loads happened. Robert made Ned Hand of the King, and Jon Snow and that lot found the direwolves, and Jon and Ned had that important conversation about who his mother was, and absolutely loads of things that continue to snowball and spiral in later episodes. That's what setting things up means. Not just having characters literally
talk to each other and tell each other who they are.
Yeah. That's how GCSE students think about setting things up.
Oh God, Jesus. Well, it wasn't all setting things up, was it? We had a great action scene in the middle of the episode.
Oh, if you could see my face now.
Oh God.
I'm doing one of those emoji like cringe faces.
With the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I'm talking about bronze sex scene. No, the dragon riding, whatever that was, whatever the hell that was.
I don't want to. I feel like I'm just gonna be moaning about it all.
But me too. Let's be concise then.
Okay.
Right, you go, because you were texting me last night. You had a lot to say about it, so go on.
Oh well, off. Like, let's be concise. You had a lot to say. You go. That's how am I meant to do that? Basically, my misgiving with it, I'll try and be concise. My misgiving with it was Daenerys is like egging him on and like looking over at him with a little cheeky wink and go on, jump on the dragon and ride it off into the sunset. Yeah, go on. What are you so scared about? Well, first of all, Why is she egging him on to ride the dragon in the first place? Like, why does he need to ride the dragon? Why is Jon making himself ride the dragon? Like, okay, I'll come back to that as well, because that. Second of all, Daenerys knows how scary it is to mount a dragon and ride it. Like, she did it in an extremely dangerous situation the very first time she did it, and in all reality, she probably would have had to have made a saddle at some point along the way to make it safer for herself. And here she is with a cheeky grin, going, "Oh, get on, it'll be fine." If he falls off, he'll die straight away. And he's never been on a dragon before. Why do you want to? Why are you pushing him into it? And why is Jon doing it? He doesn't even need to. No. There's no reason for him to get on the dragon. There isn't, though, is there? Was there any reason at that juncture for him to get on the dragon?
No, there was literally there could be a reason if he did it at some point after finding out who he was.
Yeah, that was a great point that you made in the text yesterday.
That, like, it would have a lot more meaning and weight if Jon mounted a dragon as, like, a little indicator of him, at least to some extent, accepting his Targaryen heritage.
100%. And if you saw how that happened, and like, oh my god, why didn't they do that?
I don't know.
Because he found it out later in the episode anyway.
In the same episode, yeah.
So why did? It's because, again, it's plot points, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
it's like they've gone, okay, we need a big scene in the middle of the episode that is, you know, that shows, like, Jon and Daenerys growing closer. And
yeah, but does it, like, can anyone ride dragons then? Because, okay, Daenerys didn't know at that point that Jon is a Targaryen. Yet she, as you said, she's just casually egging him on. So as far as she's concerned, he's just some random guy, and she's telling him, yeah, it's easy, just hop on. No, it's not easy. What are you on about? Oh, Jesus. I'm driving myself insane here. As well, like, up until now, like, Jon has been so insistent that, like, every effort has to be put into preparing for the arrival of the Night King and the dead, right? But now he's goofing off and, like, getting up to these wacky hijinks with Dany. Like, what's going on?
Just like some Disney scene in the middle where they're just like riding dragons around for ages. Oh my God.
It's like Harry Potter riding around on his broom.
Oh, do you know what? Even my mate, again, like, casual viewer, doesn't really think about it at all. He went, "This has gone a bit Harry Potter, isn't it?" Like, during the scene, he said that because it looked like Quidditch. They were looking over at each other as they were riding their horses and, like, looking back, and then their faces would be like a bit of shock, and then all of a sudden there'd be a smile, and then it would be like, and it was just like,
and Jon's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah. Oh, I almost fell off.
Give it here, Malfoy, or I'll knock you off your broom. Is that so?
You're not going to fall off. Like, when you watch that scene, if that had been happening in season 2 or season 3 and he'd been riding a dragon, you would have felt like he could quite easily fallen off and died, and that would be the end of Jon Snow. That's not an exaggeration. No. And here we are in season 8, and he's just jumping on there, and there's absolutely no peril. There's no sense at all, not even the slightest bit from anyone, that he was going to die there or even injure himself or anything was going to happen. We knew it was just a scene to show that him and Daenerys are growing closer together and to have some kind of nice foreshadowing for the future episodes, because we know he's a Targaryen. Like, that's it.
It's a pity he couldn't say hello to Ghost before he jumped ship and got on a dragon, though, isn't it?
I think it's like cheating on him.
Poor Ghost.
Yeah. It's like, just doesn't care about him.
No.
What was the point of
last time we saw Ghost was when he was lying by Jon's dead body in Castle Black. So in season 6, episode 2, I believe.
You're joking?
That's 2 seasons ago.
What?
Jesus.
Why are they just giving up with Ghost?
I don't know. Oh, Daenerys is wearing him. Do you see her white
Oh
coat?
God, imagine. And he's just like all smiley about that as well. He's like, and Sam's like, I can't believe you've made Ghost into a coat. And he's like, well, you have to do it, Sam, because she's the love of my life. But you only met her 2 episodes ago. Oh dear.
Jesus Christ. Now, yeah, speaking of Sam, I love John Bradley.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant.
Sam was my favourite part of that episode. Just to be positive about something. I really like John Bradley's acting.
I
That's what
really
I'll say
like
about that.
John Bradley's acting. That's like a 7-year-old's review of a film they've just seen.
It's like what you said in when we were watching the trailer. It's like, that line by Jamie Lannister was cool.
Yeah. I can't remember what it even was now.
Oh Jesus.
Oh,
Do you know what I was thinking?
I'm going to fight for the living or something like that. Yeah, that was
That's
it.
what it was, yeah. This is probably going to be next episode, actually. But do you know what I was thinking there? Jamie sees Bran at the end.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting if Bran stood up for Jamie? Because everyone else is going to be giving him shit, right? Because everyone hates Jamie.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting if Bran reveals to everyone the real reason he killed the Mad King? And that's like the end of Jamie's redemption arc, that everyone actually accepts him.
That's really good, and I think that probably will be where it goes.
I hope so.
I hope so. I think that's good, and I think I'd like that if that happened.
Because I doubt Bran will harbour any resentment to him.
No, it wouldn't make any sense, would it?
Exactly, because Bran isn't Bran anymore, and that's been smashed over our heads countless times.
Yeah.
He probably is grateful to him in a way, because he wouldn't have these powers without Jamie pushing him out that window.
Good point. Yeah. Actually, I reckon you're going to be spot on with that.
Ooh. Well,
I hope you're
we'll
spot
see
on as
soon
well,
enough.
because that makes sense from a character perspective. And it isn't overly predictable either, although you just predicted it. But it makes sense. Like, it's, there were things in... That was the thing about the earlier seasons. Pardon?
Breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, if you think about the earlier seasons, the things that were unpredictable weren't actually unpredictable because they made sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you could go back and watch it and track the path throughout.
Yeah, which was the genius of the writing, because it was simultaneously unpredictable and yet organic, which was just Jesus. I remember reading that, especially in the books, and thinking, just being in awe of how George was creating these moments that were both unpredictable and organic. That's that's an amazing skill.
Yeah.
And I to be fair, that what you just said isn't on a level of some of those things, like the Ned chopping head thing, or the Red Wedding or whatever, but it would be a nod towards that style of writing, and I hope that is where they go with it, actually.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, because you're right, it would feel more organic.
Yeah.
More organic than... Yeah, because the thing is, it seems... I was thinking about this. The reason Sansa hates Daenerys is probably because D&D know that at the end of the books, Sansa hates Daenerys, right?
Right.
But whereas there will be build up to that in the books, and it will actually occur over a period of time.
Yeah.
They've left themselves no time to do that, but they want to end the show as close to George as possible.
Sure.
So they've just kind of skipped over that interlude.
Yeah.
And that's why it's jarring.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think on a positive note, I think that they may have got the jarring leaps out of the way.
Yeah, okay. I hope that's it then.
Yeah, because it feels like, to use the phrase that lots of people are banning around, it feels like they've set things up, and they needed to do that, albeit they did it too quickly and rushed. They needed to do that in order to finish the series in the way that they hoped to do. Does that make sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hope that from here on out we're going to be less disappointed.
Yeah, I hope so.
You know, all that said and done, I didn't think it was bad.
No, I didn't think it was bad.
I just, you know, as an independent, isolated episode of television, that's not by any means a bad episode of television.
No.
It's just not anywhere near the level of what I fell in love with. But that doesn't mean it's bad, and I'll still, you know, I was still entertained, and I'm looking forward to the next episode.
So am I.
And these viewers and listeners will be very much looking forward to the next episode of Casual Corns. Am I right?
Oh, I don't know what to say to that.
So thanks for listening.
Bye.
Maybe there's a way of just sort of
Jesus.
fading out our conversation.